Well, hey, folks, were Alex Murdaugh's tears in the courtroom yesterday the real thing, or another example of those crocodile tears the police reported seeing on the day his son and wife were murdered? Hey, and after this, we're going to explore the state of South Carolina's case. Are they selling something that isn't going to get bought? It'll be interesting to see. Welcome to Profiling Evil in this chat around the Alex Murdaugh murder trial down in South Carolina. I hope you'll take a minute, hit that like and subscribe button, and ring the bell so that you're getting all of our videos. Now, Alex Murdaugh's high-profile murder case is now underway. And yesterday, while painfully slow to watch, it proved to be a better day, in my opinion, for the defense than it did for the prosecution. Now, that doesn't mean this thing's over. But keep in mind, the defense only has to convince one jury member that Alex Murdaugh didn't commit these murders. And this once prominent lawyer might just be innocent if they think that way. Now, the trial is taking place in the beautiful Colton County Courthouse down in Waterboro, South Carolina. Now, Murdaugh is accused of gunning down his wife Maggie and their son Paul. The murders occurred at the family estate back in June of 2021. And for those of you who might be new to the case, I thought I'd do a quick recap of what I think are the major players in this particular investigation and now court trial. At the center of the case, Alex Murdaugh, a now disbarred prominent lawyer from the area. In fact, this guy's family served as the solicitor for the 14th Circuit for more than 87 years. Now, in a weird twist, there's a portrait of his grandfather that was hanging in the very courtroom he's being tried in. Well, the prosecution and defense, I don't know if they complained, but the judge decided it was going to be removed during the Murdaugh trial. And frankly, I think it was an excellent move to get rid of the painting. Now, there are two victims in the center of this trial. Both are Murdaugh's family members. Let's talk about Maggie, his wife, first. There are a lot of stories swirling around the health of the Murdaugh marriage, with speculation that ranges from deep discord and mentions of divorce to the comments made by Alex Murdaugh to police on the day his wife died, saying how great everything was. Well, hopefully, the state's going to shed some light on this to bring some truth to the matter. The other victim, Murdaugh's son Paul, a 22-year-old who was found fatally shot along with his mother. It was a brutal crime scene. Now, at the time of the murder, Paul was facing charges in a boating accident that took the life of his friend, 19-year-old Mallory Beach. The prosecutor in Murdaugh's case, this is Alex Murdaugh, the murder case, is Creighton Waters. Waters has been involved from the very beginning, and he comes to this job from the state attorney general's office. Now, they're having to have state prosecutors because they felt like local prosecutors were just too close to the Murdaugh family and the fact that they'd been in that office for years. Waters, though, is an experienced trial attorney. Now, on the flip side, the defense for Murdaugh is Dick Harpootlian, and I hope I get this right, Dick Harpootlian, and Jim Griffin. Harpootlian is a South Carolina state senator, but he specializes in his private practice in criminal defense, and he's backed up by Jim Griffin, who used to be a federal prosecutor, but now is also in the private practice defending people. Now, there are a batch of other people that show up in this case here and there, but I want to talk about just a couple that I think specifically will show up. Number one is Curtis Eddie Smith, who Murdaugh once hired to kill him. That's right. Shortly after Maggie and Paul were killed, Murdaugh says that someone tried to execute him alongside an old dirt road as he was changing a tire. Well, it later became known that it was a conspiracy with him and Smith to kill Murdaugh so that Murdaugh's son, Buster, could get a $10 million life insurance payout. Now, this is all according to court records that Smith admitted to the shooting And he said, and this is really important, that he disposed of the firearm afterward. Now, a conspiracy to dispose of the firearm afterward could play into this case, and we'll discuss why because of what happened in court yesterday. And eventually, the Murdaugh family's longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, she's going to come into view, I think. She died in 2018 in what was described as a trip and fall accident at the Murdaugh home. Now, Murdaugh was accused of misappropriating funds that should have gone to Satterfield's family as part of a wrongful death settlement. And on the day of the Murdaugh shooting, a couple of pretty wild things happened. I think right around that time, Murdaugh was approached and basically accused of taking money from the law firm. It was also at that time that his father was starting to fail in health. In fact, at the time of his second interview, his father died shortly after the interview. Now, I joined Court TV this week to talk about the trial as it was ongoing. And whenever there was an opportunity to break, we'd talk about what was going on. And almost immediately, the topic of Alex Murdaugh crying in court came up. Now, the immediate response in the social media world, out on Twitter and other places, was that Murdaugh's tears weren't sincere. Everybody was pointing to comments that were made in court by police where they said, on the day of the murders, Murdaugh made sounds like he was crying, but no tears were shed. Well, I'd like you to watch Murdaugh in court yesterday. It's not the crime scene, but I want you to tell me if you believe these are tears that are real or if they are fabricated.
Let's talk about the emotion in court today and
yes.
on video again. I mean, this is a guy who kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve.
He does, and he doesn't hold back. And you've been in the courtroom now. You can see him kind of rocking back and forth as testimony is unfolding. And it seems as though it's during the parts of either an audio or testimony about the injuries to Paul and Maggie and what they were like when he allegedly found them. There he is right there kind of doing that. He does that a lot throughout the day. And we can't really see his face sitting in the gallery, but we can hear sometimes. Let's watch.
A second shot, literally his head exploded, his brain flew out. We know there's hair and blood all over that door up high. There's actually hair and blood and pieces of his skull in the ceiling and around him. Assuming the first shot would not have been immediately fatal because it didn't hit any critical organs, he would have been alive for some period of time after that shotgun blast to the chest. But the second shot, as you've seen in the pictures, and you were there that night, wasn't his brain laying at his feet?
It was beside his left leg, yes.
Well, folks, I wasn't as troubled as many of you might be. As I reflected on Murdaugh crying in court, but not over at the crime scene, I thought back to my own experiences in dealing with people who had drug addictions. Rarely did I recognize those same people when they finally made it to court some months later, especially if they'd been sitting in jail where they were forced to dry out for a while. You see, during this period of time when they start to clean up and they rid their systems of all these drugs and the drug addiction, they start to change. They come in clean shaven. They come in with their beard gone and their scruffy face is all cleaned up. They're wearing a suit. But what's most important is their mental capacity is different too when they're not addicted. Going through addiction and being addicted and strung out is a little different than being in recovery. So I want to replay a little bit of that video of Murdaugh yesterday as he was crying in court. I'm going to slow it down. I want you to notice closely the amount of fluid that's coming from the eyes, the nose, the mouth. These kinds of signs are generally indicative of true emotions. But let's watch and you be the judge. Now keep in mind, an NBC article last year said that Murdaugh's drug addiction was brought out publicly. In the article, they said Murdaugh's attorneys have said that their client suffers from an oxycodone addiction and that he was attempting to get off drugs when he started thinking about suicide. It's unclear how his drug dependence began, and a lawyer for Murdaugh wouldn't respond to questions about whether he previously sought treatment for his addiction or not, and whether his family or colleagues knew about it, close quote. Now, in yesterday's proceedings, a lot of discussion swirled around the new defense claim that there were 2 shooters and what the probability of that being truthful is. Let's jump into my discussion with Julie Grant on Court TV.
Okay, lots of pauses with this questioning, as you can see. So many of you are buzzing right now about the idea of the 2 shooters theory the defense has floated out there. Certainly something the state's been thinking about. They had to have been thinking about this because we know there were 2 guns used to carry out these crimes. Were there, 2 people, 1 gun each, or 1 person with 2 guns? Let me ask my guest. He is a retired police commander and the host of the Profiling Evil podcast. Mike King is standing by watching along with us. Mike, your thoughts on that, please.
I think it really brings some interesting questions up. Number one is the difference in these weapons, Julie. One is a high-capacity, high-powered weapon that can shoot really long distances. I mean, that 300 Blackout is really an intriguing round because it's a fairly new round. It's kind of gaining popularity because it's a little quieter than most bullets. But it's really accurate up to about 3 football fields, and then it starts to kind of get some accuracy problems after that. But a shotgun, really close range weapon. And to say it's 2 shooters, that would mean one's potentially coming in with a weapon that really could be shot further away, and the other one that should be closer. I think it's going to really boil down to what the blood spatter shows and what weapon did what damage to which individual.
I appreciate it, Mike. Mike, tell me, this had to have been something the prosecution had thought about, right? To think about whether or not Alex Murdaugh engaged in some kind of a conspiracy, allegedly, with another person. But it doesn't seem that that's at all their theory here. They're saying it was him that used both guns. Your thoughts,
Yeah,
please.
I agree, and it really makes you wonder if it has more to do with, was there one preferential target initially and the other one just happened to happen along and had to be killed as a course of getting rid of witnesses, or was it really an intention to kill both Maggie and Paul at the same moment when they were together? The change in weapons, the distances that might be involved, I think take us further away from 2 shooters and more to 1, and the fact that it was somebody stumbled upon something that was unfolding.
I appreciate your insight so much. Commander King, stand by, please.
Well, then Julie and I discussed the 2 weapons a little deeper, a shotgun and a rifle, which were shown in court. Now, these weapons were taken from the Murdaugh residence, but prosecutors openly admit that these are not the murder weapons. But it's a similar weapon than what was used on them, so they think it's important in the courtroom. Now, I think this is really important, though, because the similar weapon, whatever was used to kill Maggie and Paul, a rifle and a shotgun, have never been recovered. And this is where the deal with Eddie Smith gets so important. Well, a similar weapon has been theorized as responsible for the death, but it was never recovered. Either the shotgun or the rifle have not been recovered. Now, this is really important when you think back to the comments I made about Smith and that botched homicide when Murdaugh was shot alongside the road. If you recall, court records say that Smith confessed that after the shooting, which he was there for, that he disposed of the weapon that was used. So the question is, was Maggie and Paul's disposed of in a similar manner? Listen to my exchange with Julie Grant about this topic.
Okay, while we're watching that, or they're watching, excuse me, I meant to say they're watching the jury, not those in the public gallery, and we're not allowed to broadcast this, of course. I want to talk about these guns because I think it's a point in this case that really deserves some serious clarification. So to keep it as simple as possible, the 2 weapons that were used to kill Maggie and Paul have never been found. Whomever used those weapons, they were gotten rid of, never found up until, this point where we are in time right now. The guns we're seeing introduced in the courtroom were other guns seized at the Murdaugh home that are similar to the firearms that were used in the killings. So that's why we're seeing the defense making those objections and saying, Judge, these weren't the murder weapons. Why are these being introduced? Because apparently the Murdaughs owned a lot of firearms. There were a lot of guns in that house, a lot of ones taken into evidence as part of this case. And as we just saw in the last 10 minutes, 2 very similar firearms to the ones used to commit these crimes. Let me ask my guest, Commander Mike King, the host of the Profiling Evil podcast, what he thinks about this. Mike, so to kind of sift through all of this, what I walk away from, let me bounce this off you, please. The state's theory is that Alex Murdaugh is the killer and that he must have gotten rid of these guns. That seems to be their theory. What do you think about that, please, and the plausibility of it?
There's those hours between this window of when these murders occurred that would certainly support the idea of getting rid of something. But I'm with you and many of the viewers. The question is really strong about why are we showing these particular weapons? We could show any kind of weapon. We're finding now that there's evidence to support that there's shell casings on the ground that indicate that whoever shot and killed Maggie and Paul were at close proximity. We're seeing now that they're bringing these weapons in, but they haven't shown anything that shows a forensic examination between any projectiles that were recovered, lead from that rifle that was used, or ballistics showing that the rifle there was used. And so it's almost show and tell with no real reason other than to say these are the kind of bullets we're finding and the kind of guns that were in the house. I'm a little confused by all of this.
Yes. Well, I like how you put that, Mike. I like how you put show and tell for what reason, because I have to say the defense is very smart to make those objections and make the trial record, because if they're not the firearms used, why are they being introduced? I mean, think about all the homicide cases we see happening all across the country. If it's not the murder weapon, are you introducing other weapons in the case? No, you're not. So this is really kind of, I think, dangerous territory the state's treading on here. I see what they're going with. I think they're trying to show the jury what these weapons look like. But it could be confusing the issues. And I think I would raise that as well. If I were the defense team, not only to say it's irrelevant, but also it creates confusion in what is the job of the trier of fact here. Mike, quick final thoughts, and then we're going to hit a break while this video is going on so we don't miss the testimony that we can show.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the things that would be interesting is, wouldn't it be interesting if they were able to come back and show records that multiple 300 rifles were purchased and there's only one recovered? And would that then start to make this much more important than it is? But I'll tell you, this one's going to be interesting to watch unfold.
Bingo, you got it. And so maybe that's where they're going, right? Maybe that's the importance that we're going to see later. Excellent point. Commander King, thank you kindly. You're going to stay with us. Want you to do the same at home, please.
Well, to bring this video full circle, think again about Curtis Smith's admission that he disposed of a weapon. Could all the theatrics around the guns be a precipitator to a bigger discussion about the purchase of weapons and the actual inventory in the Murdaugh home? Let's watch.
This testimony is tough to watch because we can't see the video evidence being introduced and being played for just the jury. Those in the gallery can't see it either. We get the exhibits at the end of the day. Everything we've got so far in this case is up on our website now. Let me bring back in Commander Mike King and the host of the Profiling Evil podcast. Mike, I got some comments from some folks on Twitter who really appreciate the analysis that you were doing with me some moments ago about these 2 firearms that have never been found. And here we saw another gun introduced, again, over the objection from the defense. Where do you think the state is going with this? You mentioned the idea about maybe they want to introduce these to show that they were purchased and point to 2 other purchased firearms that aren't anywhere to be found. Is that what you think the theory might be that we see here?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to go that direction. Maybe it's completely opposite of what we've been thinking, and it's more behavioral, and they want to show that Alex Murdaugh is familiar with weapons, that he's comfortable around weapons, that he has shot and used weapons for a long time and thus capable.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. Commander King, always a pleasure to have you and the insight that you offer on the program. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, well, I want to thank Court TV for the opportunity to appear each week and to discuss some of these important cases that are out in front of us. I'm going to be watching this one very closely as we see how the prosecution unfolds their case. Then we're going to have a chance to see what the defense does. Are they going to be successful in convincing at least one juror to believe that Alex Murdaugh is innocent? So here's my question for you. If you were on a jury today, do you think the state is proving their case? And what do you think the significance is of showing the two weapons that are not tied to the murders of Maggie and Paul, but were simply recovered from inside the home? Is it simply to show that they keep those kinds of weapons in their inventory? Or is there a bigger thing in play? I'm going to be looking for your answers down below, and I hope that you'll take time to weigh in on this one. Hey, and thanks for supporting Profiling Evil. I hope you'll take time to hit the like and subscribe button, and please share Profiling Evil with all your friends. Take time to visit our website over at profilingevil.com, and there, check out our books. You might enjoy buying one of those, and you can sign up for the free digital newsletter, The Bolo. And don't forget, if you like podcasts, make sure you're subscribing to Profiling Evil Podcasts. You know, we are going crazy in the podcast arena on audio podcasts with the Academy series. You can check out all those and get a little bit of education while you're driving to and from work. And as I close, I want to thank my partner, Ara, for all their support in protecting me and my security through cyber methodologies. I use their VPN, and recently I've been leaning upon them to get my information, my personal information, off of all these websites around the big World Wide Web. Well, hey folks, I'm pausing to share some concerns I have surrounding identity theft and fraud. I've learned a lot from our partner, Ara. They're the pros at protecting people from cyber predators. Ara provides identity theft protection, credit and fraud protection, and online and device security for you and your family. They taught me to think twice before answering those online questionnaires designed to steal our personal information. You know, it must be working because U.S. statistics show that 33% of us have been victimized by identity theft at an annual cost of more than $56 billion each year. Ara protection plans come with around-the-clock support, a money-back guarantee, and a $1 million theft policy. But here's the best part. You can try Ara for free by clicking on this special Profiling Evil link in the description down below. When you do, we get a small commission. But think about it. You insure your car and you insure your house. Don't you think it's time to insure your identity? Now let's get back to today's discussion. I hope you'll take advantage of that free offer that I've given you to be a member and try them out. Well, thanks for supporting Profiling Evil, folks. Watch for me on Court TV tomorrow, and we'll see you all soon at the next crime scene.